They weren't just classmates. They were four high school friends who spent their days making music, not knowing they were about to change music forever. At first, no one took them seriously. They played small gigs, wrote songs in tiny studios, and chased a dream that felt just impossible. But then came Eurovision 1974, and with it, their breakthrough. Waterloo wasn't just a song, it was a hit. Suddenly, the world knew their name. But how did four ordinary friends go from unknown musicians to the greatest pop band of the 70s? Well, this is the story of ABBA. The story starts with Agnetha. She was born in 1950 in Sweden and had a natural gift for music. She wrote her first song at just 6 years old, and by 17 she had a #1 hit in Sweden. People compared her to big stars like Connie Francis, and it seemed like she was destined for a long solo career. But despite her early success, Sweden's music scene was small, and breaking into the international market was nearly impossible. Therefore, when she met Björn Ulvaeus, her life took a different turn. Björn, born in 1945, wasn't aiming to be a pop star at first. He was part of a Swedish folk group called the Hootenanny Singers, who were popular in Sweden, but not much beyond that. He loved writing songs, but folk music had its limits. But then, in the late 1960s, he met Benny Andersson, a talented musician with a knack for creating catchy melodies. The two hit it off immediately and started writing music together, hoping to break out of Sweden's small music scene. Benny, born in 1946, grew up playing the piano and was obsessed with music. He joined a Swedish rock band called the Stars, which became one of the biggest bands in the country. But Benny knew their success wouldn't last forever. He wanted something bigger, something timeless. When he met Björn, he realized that together they could create something truly special. Then you had Frida, who had the most unusual background. Born in Norway in 1945, she moved to Sweden as a child and was raised by her grandmother. She started singing in jazz clubs as a teenager, but despite her talent, she struggled to break into mainstream music. All four of them were rising stars in Sweden, but none of them had reached international fame. But then Björn met Agnetha and Benny met Frida, not just as couples, but as musicians. Therefore, their voices blended perfectly, and their talents combined in a way that felt almost magical. But then something crazy happened. Björn and Agnetha fell in love and got married in 1971, while Benny and Frida became a couple around the same time. Since all four of them were musicians, they often sang together during vacations and studio sessions. At first, they didn't think much of it, but when their voices blended, they realized they had something special. Their first real collaboration happened in 1970 when they recorded a song together called Hej, Gamla Man, under the name Björn and Benny, Agnetha and Annie Frid. The song became a small hit in Sweden, giving them confidence to keep working as a group. In 1972, the group's manager, Stig Andersson, saw their potential. He believed they could be Sweden's biggest musical export and pushed them to create pop music for an international audience. They needed a simple, catchy name, and that's when ABBA came up. Now they only needed something big, something that would put them on the map. That came in 1973. They attempted to enter the Eurovision Song Contest with Ring Ring, but they didn't win the Swedish selection round. This was a huge disappointment, but instead of giving up, they doubled their efforts. They needed a song that was bigger, catchier, and impossible to ignore. Therefore, in 1974, they returned to Eurovision with Waterloo, a song full of energy, fun, and a fresh new sound. This time, they won not only Sweden's selection, but the entire Eurovision contest, beating out countries from all over Europe. Suddenly, the world knew their name. Waterloo became an international hit, topping charts across Europe and even reaching the US. Winning Eurovision gave them exposure, but it didn't guarantee long-term success. Many past winners had disappeared after one song, and ABBA didn't want to be another forgotten act. Therefore, they focused on making hit after hit. Their next big song, SOS, proved they weren't just a one-hit wonder. But then, in 1976, they released Dancing Queen, a song that would define the era. The track became their first #1 hit in the US and cemented their place as global superstars. Unlike other pop acts of the time, ABBA had something unique. Their melodies were infectious, Their harmonies were flawless, and their production was polished. But most importantly, their songs connected with people. Whether it was the heartbreak of Knowing Me, Knowing You, or the joy of Mamma Mia, their music had emotion, and that made all the difference. By the late 70s, ABBA wasn't just famous. They were the biggest band in the world. But with massive success also came challenges, and their personal and professional lives were about to be tested like never before. Their songs were topping the charts, they were selling out stadiums, and their albums were flying off the shelves. But behind the scenes, things were getting complicated. ABBA's rise to global superstardom meant endless touring, recording, and media attention. At first it was exciting, but then it became exhausting. They were constantly under the spotlight. But unlike other bands, ABBA wasn't just a group. They were two real-life couples. The pressure of balancing personal lives with fame started to take a toll. Björn and Agnetha had married in 1971 and had a daughter, but being in a world-famous band made family life difficult. The same was true for Benny and Frida, who had also become a couple. But then, things started to fall apart. In 1979, Björn and Agnetha announced their divorce. Fans were shocked, but the band continued making music together. They even turned their pain into songs like The Winner Takes It All, which was inspired by their breakup. The song became one of their biggest hits, proving that ABBA had a way of turning personal struggles into powerful music. But the problems didn't stop there. By 1981, Benny and Frida had also divorced. ABBA was still a band, but things had changed. The magic that once held them together was fading. While ABBA was dealing with personal struggles, the music world was changing. Disco was starting to decline, and new sounds like rock and new wave were taking over. Therefore, even though ABBA was still successful, their style wasn't as dominant as before. They released their final album, The Visitors, in 1981, which had a darker, more mature sound. But then, in 1982, ABBA announced they were taking a break. There was no official breakup, but they never recorded another album together. ABBA had reached the top, but fame had come at a cost. However, their story was far from over, because even after they disappeared from the charts, their music refused to fade away. Although ABBA had been quiet for years, their music never truly disappeared. But then, in the early 90s, something surprising happened. Their songs started climbing the charts again. It all started with the release of ABBA Gold in 1992, a greatest hits album that introduced a new generation to classics like Mamma Mia, Dancing Queen, and The Winner Takes It All. The album became a massive success, selling millions of copies worldwide. Suddenly, ABBA was cool again. At the same time, famous musicians and filmmakers started paying tribute to them. In 1999, the musical Mamma Mia premiered in London, featuring ABBA's biggest hits in a fun, energetic stage show. The musical became a global phenomenon, leading to the hit movies Mamma Mia, 2008, and Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, 2018. ABBA's music continues to reach new audiences, proving that great pop songs never age. Their influence is still felt in modern music, and their fan base keeps growing. But then, in 2021, something happened that no one expected. ABBA reunited. After nearly 40 years, the band released a new album, Voyage, giving fans one last chance to experience their magic. The album was a success, proving that ABBA's music is truly timeless. They may have started as four friends in Sweden, but they became legends whose music will live on forever. In August 2023, Agnetha released a new single titled Where Do We Go From Here, and announced an upcoming album called A Plus, set for release in October 2023. Björn remains active in the music industry, contributing to various projects and serving as the president of the International Confederation of Societies of Authors and Composers since 2020. Benny continues to engage in musical projects, including involvement in the ABBA Voyage concert residency. Frida has maintained a lower public profile in recent years, focusing on personal interests and philanthropic activities.